Right, so I want us to quickly move on to the last part of the video of the series, basically, which is trying to update the profile picture, right? Because as you can see, when we check inside the database, you can see that this profile picture is empty. So you're going to have to find a way to make sure that after we have signed up the user and have logged in, we can update the profile picture, right? So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to add an edit profile here, and then once you click on the edit profile, it should allow you to select a picture out of your own directory. Then once you click on the picture previews over here, and then this edit profile button changes to cancel and save changes. Right now, when it now as but the moment it becomes save changes and cancel, when you click on cancel, it stops the whole process. But when you click on save changes, it submits it into the database, hence updates the user's profile picture. Right now, in order for us to be able to get this done, let us first of all go into the backend and set up a new endpoint for that. Right, so I'm basically going to come into the backend here. Where is it? So I have model. Okay, it's already here. Then I'll go to the service. Right, I want to go into the user service. Now over here, since I am basically going to be creating since I'm basically going to be creating a new endpoint, it means we need a new service for it. Okay, so because of that, let us come down to the last part here, or we can even do it under the update user. So under here you can see what const update profile picture. Okay, oh no, update profile picture, not profile update profile picture. Right, okay, then inside we make sure that inside this we make sure it is an asynchronous function that takes in the user ID and the new profile picture. Then after that, we use our arrow function, we open it up, then we have our try catch block as usual. We are doing what? We are throwing the error, right? And then okay, we even made it error, so we can throw the error like this. So as you can see, right? So over here, what are we trying to do? We want to make sure that at the end of the day, we inside our try catch block, we are going to get the user, right? We're going to get that user that we want to change their profile. Then we use the user model to find and update by ID. So find by ID and update. Then inside we would take the user ID, right? Take the user ID from the arguments that we pass. Then we open up this object and then we say what? Set. Okay, now once we are able to set, what are we passing through this set? We are going to say what? Take the profile picture field and then pass in the new profile picture. Right, now that we've been able to do that, we need to make sure that when we are returning something new, we want to say what? When we are returning something new, or when we are returning the user, we need to make sure that we are returning the update, right? So we set new to be what's true. Then we can finally return the user. Okay, that's nice and easy. Now what we have to do is we basically have to export this. So export this. Okay, since it is the what's the name? It is the module way, or ES6 modules. We do not need to suffer like that. We just write the export at the end here. Exports here, right? so it should export that for us. Then quickly we would go straight into the controller, which is here. Then we now pass in a few things. So under here, right, nicely, we are going to do this, right? Under here, what are we going to do, right? We are basically going to export, or we can basically copy this in general. Let's copy this, right? Paste it here. Then we just change here to say update what? Profile picture controller, right? Then we can come inside this place. We can take this out. Obviously, and then we can come here and change this one to what? So we can change this to update profile picture, and then pass in the request.params.id, and then pass in request file.path. Why request file.path? The request file.path is what is going to pass through Cloudinary parser or Mortar parser, and then it sends it to Cloudinary. Then we get the secure URL link, right? So basically that's it. So request the params, then request file.path. So if you go inside here, realize we are going to pass the request file.path through here, so it updates this field, right? Okay, so assuming you understand, I'm going to basically now bring out this and take this one out as well. Okay, then over here I'm going to say what? The profile picture has been updated successfully. Then we throw back our error JSON. Okay, now that we have this working properly or set up properly, I would go to the user route here. Then under here, I can come under here and see what? Update profile picture, right? Then under here that we have that, I can basically copy this and paste it here, and then pass profile picture, right? So now that we have this all set up here, I'll say what? I'll bring the parser, I'll import the parser, but okay, the parser is not being imported automatically, so I'd have to import it myself. Import the parser. So parser, I import it from my Cloudinary file from Cloudinary. So I'll do config/cloudinary.js. Then I use this parser, then .single, then I pass in what? Then I quickly pass in the profile picture, right? Profile picture text, right? So profile picture, right? Then I'm going to bring this comma as well. Then this should set it up for us nicely. Okay, now that we have this set up, right, we want to quickly go into the front end. Right, we want to go, or if we like, we can test it ourselves, right? How do we test it? I can go to Postman, and then for this update user, we can basically duplicate this. Right? And then we can change the name to what? Update profile picture. Right? Update profile picture. Then over here we have one ID already inside, and we have what? Profile profile picture. Okay, just like how we set it up. Then I'll save. But whose ID is this? This is B9. That is I think that is Henry's. B9, yeah, so that is Henry's. So we have that set up like we did over here. Okay, so what do we do now? We are basically going to go to postman, go to the body, and set this to form data as usual. Then over here for the field, so let me do this. So you see over here the field, we set it to profile picture. We set the field to profile picture, then we set here to file. Then over here we say what we take one file here. So I'm going to take, I think I generated some images with Microsoft Designer some time ago, so I'm just going to take one image. Yeah, alright, so now that I have this, all we have to do is, yeah, it's already output, right? So all we have to do is make the request, and we are getting, okay, what does this say? Malform part header. Okay, alright, what I'm going to do is, let me check. Okay, profile picture is set. I'm going to remove this image. I'm going to check the ID. Right, I have profile picture, right? Then let me save or restart the server. If I go inside here to check, okay, so yeah, we used the wrong one. So inside the route, I'll change this to what? Update profile picture, and we are going to get that. No, that's not what you're going to get. Update profile picture controller. Yes. Then now that we have that, we can now test it out. So I can select my file one more time. Okay, let's select this. Then I'll make the request. Alright, so when we check inside the database, you can see that we have this cloudinary link here, right? Or string basically. So it has been updated. Okay, so I'm going to quickly clean that and update this, right? And then now that we've made sure that our endpoint works, let's go into the front end and then do a few things. So inside the profile page here, I'm going to come under here and write a few conditions to render a few files or render a few components, right? So inside here, what am I going to do? I want to make sure that this profile that we are in belongs to the logged in user, right? So I'm going to take this username from the params and compare it with the logged in user's username, and if it's the same, we display edit profile, right? So in order for us to be able to do that, I'll bring my curly braces right under here, right? Then I'll say what username that we are getting from the params up here. Okay, so I can cut this out, but the username we are getting from the params, right, should be equal to what? It should be equal to this user, right? Or it should be equal to current user, basically current user that we've not imported yet. Current user dot username Okay, that we are going to get it from the auth context. So let's import it here. Say const, then user, then we give it a nickname of what? Current user. User, but represent it with current user. You are going to get it from the use context, then auth context, right? Okay, then you're going to check if it compares or if it matches perfectly and it returns true. Then I need you to render these things, right? Okay, so what do I need you to render? First of all, let me bring in my empty fragments. Then I'm going to say that what? Give me a button, right? Give me a button, and basically don't give me the button yet, because okay, I mean, we could do that, right? We could make it give us the button, but let's not complicate things. Okay, I want to say that if, okay, let me do this. Let me do this, right? You have this one compared to be true, and then you are rendering your elements, right? But like I said before, like I mentioned before, we want to make sure that whenever the button is here and we click on it, it will open a file or a directory for us to select the picture that we want, and then we preview this picture, right? I mentioned that. Okay, now once we are previewing the picture, we want to be in a certain type of mode, like an edit mode, right? Then we can either save changes or cancel the operation that we are performing, right? Now, in order for us to be able to get into that mode, we need to write certain conditions, right? So I'm quickly going to set that thing up so we don't have to make the video too long, right? So over here, I can create another condition, right? I want to check if I'm in the edit mode, right? So I'm going to say if edit mode, of which we've not set up yet, right? We've not set up that edit mode yet, right? So let's quickly go back to set it up. I'll come here and say const edit mode, const edit mode, set edit mode, right? Then it's equal to what? Use state. Then we set that to what? False, as its default value, right? Now that we have this set up, we want to come down here, right? So we want to say that, we want to say if edit mode, give us this, but if not, so if edit mode give us this, let me put in my empty fragments, but if it's not, right? So over here, if edit mode, show us the two buttons, which is the save changes and then the cancelled, and then if it's not in edit mode, just show us the edit button, right? So inside here, we're going to say what? How do we create these buttons? So I'm going to have a button element inside here, right? Then inside this element, I'm basically going to give it, I'm going to write save changes, right? Save changes, right? So right now that I have this button save changes here, I want to make sure that it would have like a few class names, but let's not give it class names here, right? And then let's create another button here as well, and then give that a cancel, right? We'll handle that, we'll handle the stylings later, right? So now that we are not in edit mode and we want the button for edit profile, over here we're not going to give it a button, we're going to give it a label and an input, right? Because we want to be able to make sure that when we click on it, it opens up the file directory. So I'm basically going to say label, right? And inside this label, I'm quickly going to say edit profile, right? good. Now over here too, I'm going to bring my input, right? And I'm going to set the input to file, right? I can remove this name because we don't need it, right? Then over here I'll say what, profile picture. Copy this and paste it here. So when I go back into the browser and I select this, you see that it brings this out. So what we are going to do is over here, I'm going to set this to hidden. Okay, quickly set it to hidden, right, so that we don't see it. So when I click on this, it'll open it up. Then we can select the image, right? Okay, now that we know this, let us give it a few class names. So let us style it, right? So I'm going to style it by saying that I'm giving it a text white first of all. I'm going to give it a text white, then I'll self-center it, right? Then I want to say my cursor should be pointer. Then I want to give it a background of green, 600. Then I want to say that my margin top, to give it some space between the username and the bio, would be what, 2.5. Then I'll say what my px should be what, my px should be 5. Okay, then my py should be 2. Okay, then I'm going to give it a rounded md, and then I'll give it a hover effect as well of bg green 700. Then I'll set it to a transition just so that it doesn't look weird or doesn't act weird. So over here when we hover it, you see the smooth movement coming with it nicely, right? So now that we've been able to get this button working as we expect, I'm clicking on it, it comes nicely, right? What am I going to do next? I'm going to quickly try to add an unchanged function to the input file so that we can receive the file, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say what, an unchanged, and then I'm going to say handle file change, of which we are going to handle really quickly above. Okay, so now that we have this handle file change, let us go to the save changes and then give it its class names, right? So over here for the save change, I'm going to say what, let's give it a bg green 600, bg green 600. Then let's give it an empty 2.5, basically an empty 2.5. Then I'll give it what, a px, I'll give it a px of what, 5, and I'll give it a py of 2. Then what else? I'll make sure that the text is what, white as well. Okay, then I'll also make sure that it is rounded md, and I'll give it a hover of bg green 700, bg green 700, and the transition. Okay, right, now that I have this, I want to pass on the same class name to this button, but change a few things. Copy it to this button, and change a few things. Now what am I trying to change? I want to make sure that I'm changing this to be red, and then I want to change, but this one I'm going to make it red 500 actually, and I'll make this red 600. Okay, so we quickly have these two buttons. Okay, it says what, handle file change. Yeah, we've not done the handle file change. So now when we want to make sure that when I click this and I take my file and I click on my image, we preview the file inside the user profile picture, and then at the same time we are showing these two buttons in edit mode, right? So in order for us to be able to do that, we have to set up a few use states above, right? So here I'm quickly going to handle those use states above, right? So here I'm going to add preview image. Okay, I'm connecting my charger. Right, so I'm going to add preview image, then set preview image, right, and then we say use state. So this use state is going to be set to what? None. Okay, then over here we want to handle file change, right? So I'll come below here and I'll say what, const handle file change, right? Handle file change, that is going to take in the e as the parameter, and then the arrow, then it says what, const file is equal to what, e.target dot files, then you select the first file inside. Then over here I want to say that if file, right, or if the file exists, or if we get the file, right, what do we want to do? We want to set the preview image to that file, right? So we want to set the preview image. So over here, in order for us to be able to preview the image without sending it into the server, we use this property, right? Create what, object URL, like what we did for the other one. Then we pass in the file. Then right under it, we can set the edit mode. We can set the edit mode to be true. Okay, then that one we can now see our second buttons once it's in edit mode, right? Then we want to make sure that we are doing something here for the, so we want to say what, let's not leave out, okay, let me go back, let's test it first. So I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to select this. Now as you can see over here, there's nothing showing, right? So in order for us to be able to set that up, I'll go here, right? I'm going to go here, and then I would make this change. I'm going to set the preview image, right? So when we go back, you can see the image show up here. Then we can cancel, but as you can see, when we click on cancel, nothing happens, and when we click on save changes to, nothing also happens. But don't worry, that is not our fault. That is not our fault at all. So in order for us to be able to fix these things, we are going to have two extra things, right? That is two extra functions, which are the functions that we are going to add to these two bad boys here, right? So this button here is going to have a function called, so when you click on it, it's going to say what, handle save, right? Handle save. And then this one is also going to have what, handle cancel. Okay, handle cancel, right? So Since we have these two functions here, what do? Let's create them. Right, so in order for us to be able to create these two buttons, for the handle save, we can just come and say const handle save. Then we make sure that it's an asynchronous function, obviously, because we'll be calling from the server. Then yes, let's just leave it like this, empty. And then let's come to what? Const handle cancel. Handle cancel, actually, not save. Handle cancel. Then there's going to be what? Over here. Then we say what? We set the image preview to be null. We set the image preview to be null. Then under here we say what? Toggle edit mode. Toggle edit mode, of which we've not worked on, right? Or we can even say set edit mode to be false. Okay, set edit mode to be false. Okay, so let's test that. So I'm going to click on this, then I'll select the image, shows up here, just cancel, and then everything is back to normal, right? Now that it works, I want to go back. Sorry, let me minimize this. Now that it works, I want to go back to my VS Code here. Then what do we want to work on? We want to now that we can preview the images and then we can cancel, we want to make sure that we have the handle save working. Okay, so over here in the handle save, let us do a few things. Okay, now over here that we have this set preview image, this is just helping us preview the image and it's coming out as a URL, right? Of which you don't need. You need the actual image. So I'm going to say what? Const profile image set profile image, right? Then we set that to a use state. We set that to a use state of null. Okay, then over here, once we are able to handle this, we can do what? We can set the profile image to the file itself. Then we pass that into the server. Okay, so I'm going to go into handle save here, and then we have our try catch block, right? Try catch here. Then inside this try catch, we are going to do what? Say console.log. Then we are going to log out the error. We can also use our toast component, toast.error. Then we are going to say that what are we going to say? Failed to update profile picture. Failed to update profile picture, right? So now that we have that, we want to make sure that we are checking a few things before we handle. Okay, so here we want to say that sorry, we want to do a check. So we want to say whenever we click on handle save, we want to check for something first, right? Now we want to check, right? We want to check. So this if else here, we want to bring this and bring it here, right? Okay, I have to take this one as well and bring it here, right? So what is the condition that you are checking for? we want to check if there's an image preview. If there's no image preview, then we can basically set our edit mode to false. Okay, we can set the edit mode to false, right? So here I want to say what if there's an image preview. There's an image preview, right? If there is an image preview, then do whatever you want to do. But if there is not, we can set edit mode to false. You can set edit mode to false, right? Now that we have that, now inside this, let's first of all create our form data, since that's what we used in our testing. We used the form data, right? So let's do the form data. Then you see what's new form data. Initialize that. Now inside this form data here, we want to say form data dot append. Then we have a field called profile picture. Then after this profile picture field, we pass in with the profile image, right? So we pass in the profile image that we set this file to. Now that we're able to pass that, we are going to try to use our API or our endpoint here. So here we can get the response, right? We can basically get the response here. So I can say const what res, then I'll await it, right? I'll await. Then I'll call this API that we created inside our API.js. Then I'll say what put. Okay, I'm going to put, so I'm going to update. Now inside this, how am I going to update? How am I going to perform my update, right? I'm going to use this backticks because you're going to be passing in some IDs, right? So inside this backticks, I'm going to say users slash what. Then I need my logged in users ID, so I would say current user the ID, right? Then now that I have that, I can now do it. Come here and pass in a profile picture. Okay, then what am I going to pass after this has been successful, right? I'm basically going to pass in the form data. Okay, so I'm going to say form data, right? Then over here I'm going to make sure that it knows that the headers is what form data. So I'm going to say content type, right? So the content type here is going to be a multipath form data, right? So multipath, multi-part form data, right? Okay, now that we have this all set up, we want to see that in case this whole operation is successful, we want to send a toast dot success saying what, that your profile, or we can even set it to what is coming out of the response, right? So we can say res dot data dot message, right? And then over here we can come down and set our user. We can say what, take the user that we set once we updated the page, right? And then collect every data inside it, right? But make sure that we are changing profile picture only, that profile picture field. Then we are passing in what's the res dot data dot user profile picture, right? Okay, then we make sure that over here we set our preview image to null. We set the preview image to null one more time. Then after we toggle, or after we set our edit mode to false. Okay, right. Now that we have this all set up nicely as we expect, we want to go ahead and test the code to make sure it works. Okay, but let's check one more thing. Now I want to make sure that when I click on save changes, I can see some progress going on, right? So in order for us to be able to do that, let's quickly add a loading state, right? So over here I'm going to say const loading set loading, and I'm going to give that a use state. Then over here use state, so yeah, it's false. Then over here we can set it to true, so set loading to true. Once we make the API call, set loading to true. Then once it is successful, we want to set loading to false. Set loading to false, and then we want to do the same thing for the error, right? Okay, and now let us also, okay, once there's an error, obviously going to set the loading. Wait, I'm gonna copy this, set loading to false in case. Yeah, alright, so yeah, or it's not necessary, let's just leave it. So over here, right, we want to make sure that our loading state is being recognized. So I'll wrap this in a curly braces, and I'll say what in case loading is what, in case it's true, in case loading is true, I need you to say what, saving changes. But if it's not, I need you to say save changes, right? Okay, so now that we've been able to set this up, we can now check. All right, so let's test, right? I'm going to click on edit profile here, then I'll select designer or one of the images. Then you can see it here. If I cancel, everything goes back to normal. If I do it again and select one picture, it's here. Then I can save changes. You can see saving changes. Okay, profile picture has been updated successfully. If I refresh this, we should see that it's here, nicely updated. Let's check the database. You should see it here, nicely updated as well. Okay, right. So I'm really glad we're able to get to the final point of our social media application in general, and I'm really excited. Let us just go into the auth context and remove this default thing we put in there. Let's set it back to null. Okay, let's quickly set it back to null. Okay, then we can now log in or sign up with a new user, it says what cannot read property nor of username, and that is in a profile. Sorry, why did I click that? That is in a profile. Okay, we can check. So I'm going to go into the profile. Right, so we just place that in there. You should check for it. I'm sure there are more errors. Let's check. Okay, username, navbar, username. Okay, that one too we are going to have to check. So it says what, navbar.jsx, navbar, then what else? I'm sure there are so many places. I'm going to search for all the user parts. I'm going to say user, then it brings out all the user parts. I'm going to take this one out. I'm going to take, I'm going to take these. I don't think I can update all of them at once, so I'm going to have to do it one by one. So let's go back. It says what, navbar, right? So inside my navbar, I already added it. Okay, so I'm sure there are more. Let me just edit exit here. Then it should show the sign up. Okay, so sign up is being shown here. I can basically sign in with a new user, or I can just log into my account as Henry. I can log in as Henry at gmail.com. Login. Says cannot read property of undefined. Cannot read the property of undefined at the right bar. Okay, here. Okay, so I'm going to have to check the right bar. Okay, do this. Okay, let's log into our account as Henry. So basically, most of the errors that you are going to get when you set it to null, it's just going to be rendering issues. So you just have to check if the user exists. Like, let's say for example this side like this, you can just add your question marks to check if the user exists, and then once the user exists, so it checks and the user appears, you now render the page, right? So it works as we expect it to. If I go into Ama's profiles, I can say profile.ama. You can see that we are following Ama. It looks like we have an error here too as well. It says what's reading null of profile picture, and that is going to be the nav bar here. Okay, so like I said, so I'm going to nav bar as well, and I'm going to add this. Then what else? I think there's another error. Username, newsfeed. Okay, newsfeed as well. So I'm going to the newsfeed. I'm going to the newsfeed, and I'm going to add my question mark like I have done. And then I think there are some small errors, some extra errors. Okay, so I need to add more question marks to make those changes. So I'm going to quickly add a question marks to all the parts that I have to make changes to. Then when I'm done, I'll come back, and then we should see our project working as we expect it to. So I've been able to fix all the the rendering issues, that's the question mark checks. So let us quickly log in gmail.com, Henry, and I'm inside. Okay, so you can see that we have this here. We have Henry showing here as well, and Amma is here. Okay, so now that we have all this set up, we know that everything is working as we expected it to. We can update we can make posts, we can update our profile, we can follow people and everything. Yeah, it's pretty awesome, right? So basically, I know that we weren't able to work on the user persistence part, and let's not work on that for now. In fact, I'm going to throw it to you as a challenge. Yeah, I mean, for you to be able to perform this user persistence thing, you can use either Redux or your local storage to store the login user information for you to use everywhere in your application as well. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to try to implement it. Then I'll give you the email to access the neural feed or solution servant basically. So I'm going to give you the email inside the description, and then you'd send me a video of you implementing it, or you can just send me a link to the repo, and then I'll make sure I check it out, and I'll definitely shout you out in the next videos that we would or the next videos that I'm going to put out, right? So yeah, I'm feeling so excited to show people the new videos that I'm coming out with. They are more they are more responsive, they have better graphics, and they are more fast. There's less talk, and then everything is just in place, right? So basically there are so many in general, and so my main aim is to give you a poll for you to select from. All right, yeah, then after you select from the poll, then I'll know the one to release next, right? Thank you very much for getting to this point. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.